You go over there with
Well,
that hammer, you hit him. No, you go over there, bro. No,
oh,
you just scared, bro. No, open the door, bro.
okay.
Go
All
over
right.
there. Do that for the game. That's
Oh,
right.
all right. I got him.
What the
Right
fuck?
there. Right there. Acting like he's scared. Scared and shit.
All right, come on. We got it. All right, let's come on. Let's start grabbing.
Yeah, nah,
We
run,
can
run
get
for this
active
shit.
now.
Yeah, yeah,
Run
yeah.
for this shit, run.
I got him. I got him.
If the alien wear a
I'm taking
laptop,
all his utensils, all of them, cups and all.
I'm taking all
crazy.
his
Oh,
utensils.
he
It's
think he gonna
crazy.
be gaming again? He not gonna be gaming again.
Oh,
All right.
are these
I got his
the
bed.
Beats earphones? Oh yeah. Hey, take his whole
What's up?
computer set too. He ain't streaming no
Got a
more.
got a tower.
I
It's
just locked us out of that door on accident.
Look at this.
Oh!
Oh wait,
No,
what
his
happened?
body!
Where'd he go?
It went upstairs!
How?
Oh no!
Bro,
Wait, no!
oh, I got him. I got him.
Wait, hold on. He woke up.
Yeah, yeah. They don't stay knocked out. You got to stay on top of them. Pause.
Wait, where did you knock him out at?
Up
Oh,
here.
up here? Okay, he's mine now. Don't worry about it.
Wait. Do you think we could
I'll
put him
keep
in?
an eye on him.
We think we could put him in the car?
Let's call kidnapping.
Okay. Yeah. Start knocking him out. Hold up. Oh, he took a. Oh. Well. Wait. What just happened? Bro, where'd he go?
Oh god!
Oh.
Oh no! Oh no!
Just have
Bro.
He's flying.
Bro, where'd he go? Oh shit. Hey, we might have to go. Oh well, no, I see him. I think I do. I can't get out this door.
Drop it!
He's gone, guys.
He wasn't.
He teleported.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
all right, we gotta go. The police will be on their way.
He-
That was a nice break. I haven't had a break like that in. I think I got like 2 months now. Oh yeah, yeah. You was. I'm sure you was out. You know, we finally was picking up the pace and getting our money. So it was fine. It was fine. Okay, I just need to get my browser. My browser come back to me. Okay, here we go right here. Close that. Yep. Let's see what's going on in the world. See my background. When I stumble upon this, I was like, oh yeah, I gotta get it. Okay. Where's okay. Let's see. I do want to take a quick look at some headlines though. Going news real quick. Donors stress over path forward over after Biden's debate performance. All right, Destiny likes and dislikes. Um, okay, so for Destiny, um, this was going to be a little bit tough because like it's hard for me. Well, okay, so because I guess of all people, I guess Destiny would be the one I consumed enough content of to be able to say something. Overall, I think Destiny's pretty good at what he does in terms of his research ethic and debate prowess. I don't really have much of a dislike on him because like he does a really good job challenging both sides because that's exactly like how I do it. Like when I'm looking if I'm actually when I'm actually conducting like full fledged research. Oh my gosh. See? Here goes somewhere. But when I'm conducting like my full fledged research, what I try to do is I most certainly look for everything I can that disproves or goes against my position, and try to work my way from there. Right? Unless I get like direct what is it like direct questions right to be answered. If I'm just doing general research, I try to look for like the negatives first to figure out to what extent to what extent can each position can the position adverse against like what I'm initially feeling like how deep can that one go. So yeah, like see, yeah, because like that's the thing, like I think best way I can put it is just that like I tell people is that just because you're just because you support somebody, here we go, right? Just because you support somebody or you like what they say or whatever doesn't necessarily mean you agree with 100% of everything they do. Because if I recall correctly, like you was talking about like Andrew Tate, right? And Andrew Tate does say like a lot of good stuff. It's just unfortunate that he also said a lot of other stuff too. But like you tell somebody that, right, and they think that you automatically co-sign on all those other things instead of just like, nah, it's just these are just a set of things that I can take, or so that was always my big thing on it. So that's why, like, that's what kind of like made me lean towards like the Republican side, because back then, this is pre-Trump, right? Because when I got out of high school, I got out of high school around 2012, I think. Yeah, I think it's like somewhere around there. Yeah. Yeah, and then Trump was like 2015, 2016, right? Like before then, Republican Party was obviously like night and day different. So you're not really pro Palestine or Israel. So for Israel, so for the Israel Hamas war, I lean more towards like Israel than I do Palestine, just because like so obviously Israel has a right to defend themselves, right? They were attacked and whatnot. Of course, like that whole situation from after World War II when they moved the Jews over there to now, like that whole thing was just shitty and nobody didn't really want to deal with it. So I definitely um do feel for the Palestinians for what they're going through and stuff like that. But eventually, eventually somebody has to make the sacrifice. Like there's no this thing with this historical. Bro, I was just working on one of my videos about it too, because I'm still learning this YouTube stuff here. Yeah, I need to move you over here. Um, Come on, come on. Yeah, like it's just a bunch of stuff I just finished like working on. I got all the stuff here that I need to finalize, then I can start pumping them out. But there was that debate we watched. I don't know if he was there when I was watching that debate. Oh, between Amin Kozak and Dave Smith. Um, it was pretty good, but like the argument, this historical argument thing, that stuff there's no getting around it, and it's such a terrible argument, and they just need to just give it up. They just need to give it up. Like people romanticize and have this really crazy rosy picture of war that just does not exist. Like unfortunately, war is war. Like you don't like it, oh well, like that is what war is. War gets to take what it wants. I mean, the winner gets to take what they want, and you can't fight off of it. Then it's just whatever. I mean, that's how it's just been since the beginning of time. So like if Israel and the Hamas thing, if the Israel Palestine thing wants to be put away for good and actually have peace, then they need to just give it up. They honestly just need to give it up. Like you're not. They had plenty of opportunities to sit there and like cut the deals when they did from whatever it was like that from 1960 something up to now. I think it was like 2-3 different like times where they had a chance to make a deal and they chose to fight. And every time they chose to fight, right, Israel did what Israel was gonna do. So it just is what it is. Let me actually go through your questions here. Let's see. Israel has done wrong. There is no denying that. But what are they gonna do if they got attacked? I'm actually telling this thing. I feel for both, but I hate how the media makes everybody lead to supporting a terrorist. They don't even realize that. Because free Palestine from Hamas, not from river to sea. War is war. War makes men mad. Both sides. So, but see, the issue is just that, like, the world almost essentially co-signed off of the living conditions that the Palestinians were being subjected to. And then of course the Palestinians didn't make it any easier for themselves either, with the constant attacks and threats that they were doing to Israel, because at the end of the day, whoever's the actual aggressor is the one that's going to get the least amount of support. So it's like on the one hand, it's like I get it, but like you can't you gotta stop like being violent. You have to come and negotiate and be willing to just give up, because at this point this is what's going to happen. if they do not come to an agreement now, Israel, because it's to Israel's interests, and you could even say I would probably argue, and because I'm pretty sure if I research it, there would probably be enough things to hint towards this, is that this was probably exactly what the Israelis want the whole time. Specific key people in that Jewish leadership, right? Because at the end of the day, like this can do nothing but be beneficial and great for Israel's desire. Because if Israel, because like, to keep it frank, if Israel could just sit there and just purge that whole area, right, of just all the land, right, and just have all the land for themselves, they would do it. Right? Like, why sit there and try to live with people that's been trying to like kill you for 60 years now, right? That's like, so if they could just like just purge it and just be done with it, they would have done it, right? But as this conflict stuff keeps continuing, these separate conflicts, they just gonna keep edging away at the land. That's why they kept doing the illegal settlements, right? All to just eventually just do what they can to just take as much land as possible, and then eventually just push them all out. So the Palestinians, I don't know. I do not see a way forward for them. I really don't. I just, and then the worst part is just that after this finally stops, the kind of resentment or maybe like hatred and stuff that's going to like brew in within Palestine, it's just not going to be good. So that's why I think the way forward is they have no choice. They have to go up in there and remove most of Hamas. Hassan fans are actually retarded, dude. I bet, I'm sure, but Israel's gonna have to definitely try to get as much of Palestine, as much of Hamas out as they can. So they actually, in my personal opinion, I honestly think they kind of dropped the ball on October 7th. Because if you think about it, if they had acted on it completely different, I got banned in his chat for calling him a terrorist denier when he decided to call me a genocide supporter. Oh man, that's funny. That's actually kind of funny. That sounds about like his MO from what I understand. I've only seen some of his content. I don't dig too much into it because I'm not really what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I just don't be having the time to like kind of watch so many different people's take and their input on it. But from what I've seen, like Hassan is kind of over there on that left side, so that makes sense. So how do you know if a certain scenario in history did actually happen? You have to cross. I mean, the only way you can know is you just have to cross check it. Like if you can, what's what I'm looking for? If you can get a bunch of different separate scholars that are all not related to a particular cause or issue and stuff that can all point to it. It's also helpful if you get other. So think of like World War II events, right? If you look at World War II events, you can obviously pull up the stuff here. You can look at. You can actually look at like what information other countries have in terms of like how they explain like what happened, their historical, not historical documents, but like kind of like their I don't even know what the hell you call it when you go on there. When you go on their internet repositories, I guess, whatever documents and stuff you could just get your hands on. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you only know what people tell you. And it would be really helpful if you got more than one source. But if one source is all you have, I mean, you just have to, you just have to look at it, but just take it with a grain of salt. I wouldn't personally stake my whole, like my whole position on it if I can't at least find like two separate reliable sources for something, if possible, but you obviously you can't do that with every single thing. So not necessarily, you can't necessarily be open-minded, because like if you're like depending on how open-minded you get, you start treading into that territory where Jesus, what's the word I'm looking for? Let me just plug this up real quick. You start treading into that territory where like you start to not want to you won't believe everything, and or you'll challenge everything, and then in some cases, right, you might even like find yourself even digging into conspiracies. You know, you won't believe
Come on,
everything.
let me close this.
And or you'll
Didn't mean to do that. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Cool.
yeah. So you don't want to necessarily be open minded. Well, you want to be open minded, but you got to be really careful about how open minded you are. Right? You can always take something into consideration, but like don't sit there and what's the word I'm looking for? Don't stake your whole position on something that you haven't hasn't stood the test of time with you to vet it, to see if it's even legit, to see like what other people are saying about it, just things like that. So like, you know what, Candace Owens would be a really good example, right? Because kind of like what I was saying, like, you know, she all she does is like really she just likes to just sit there on the opposite side. Like, if a majority of people have a position one way, then she will go out of her way typically to go on the other side, no matter like what, in a bad faith way, right? It'd be one thing if she was going over there and then genuinely trying to like actually sit there and run the stuff down. But then when you start, you know, when you start doing like ad hominems, when you start sitting there and play semantics with people's words, but then don't you know, treat your own things that you're saying with the same level of lens that you're holding other people on, like it's just that's where like when you become too jaded. That's the word I was looking for, jaded. Don't have your mind open to the point where you start becoming jaded to certain things. I like me, I'm still learning. I'm still doing everything I can to kind of like fine tune my positions as well as my way to convey them. Like that's the thing I struggle with the most, is actually trying to in a clear, concise manner convey what I'm thinking and how I think it, because I have a issue right now where I can certainly understand something, I just cannot speak it or explain it in a way for other people to understand. And it's crazy because they say that if you truly understand something, you'd be able to actually explain it to people. But it's like I can understand it, I just for the life of God trying to explain it is just so difficult. Um, Same, despite having a degree, I'm not perfect, and I'm definitely not an expert. Yeah, expert. Okay, let's. Why do you hate Jews? When was this? This was 11 hours ago. See? Speak your name and see, and it comes right up. Oh, yeah. I knew Trump was going to start going crazy after the debate. So that was obvious. Lord, did she really try to sit there and do a meme? She didn't even do it right. Like, what is this? Bro, you can't, you almost can't tell it's actually the fire thing. Like, she should have done it like the other, like, portray where there's more house so you can actually see the flames. This is what because that's what she's talking about. Why do you hate Jews? Do I really want to sit there and look at this? It's 54 minutes. Trump crushes corpse Biden in disaster debate. Yep, see? Everybody's starting to roll through. Everybody's starting to roll through now with their stuff. Names. Ahead of the first 2024 debate. Come on. I don't want to. If I didn't had already done like two things Candace was in, I would have done the Candace video. I just don't want to do Candace no more right now. I need a break. Jesus Christ. Wait, why don't I look at Destiny? Didn't I say I was going to actually check out and see what the hell Destiny's Child. Candace makes our kind look bad. Queen of ad hominems and misinformation. God, she is so funny. Meat riding Kanye. Jesus Christ. The stuff that she'll sit there and say about, you know, in support of Kanye is just kind of crazy. Hassan gets confronted about making up with Destiny. This was 15 hours ago. Do I want to sit? Something tells me I should look at it just because, like, you brought him up. Let's look. Let me see. Destiny gets an insane over Dr. Disrespect. That Dr. Disrespect thing is crazy. I don't know why he sat there. He like said anything. You going through something like that? You don't say you don't say shit on Twitter. You don't say shit. Period. You just, especially if you're dealing with stuff stuff to the degree he's dealing with. Your curiosity is going to kill you one day. Um, Probably. Let's see what happens. Well, Dr. Disrespect. Best summary I can give you is that big streamer. He was a pretty big streamer. Allegation. Then Twitch banned him, and at the time of being banned, nobody knew why he was being banned, and I think he even made a statement saying he didn't know why he was being banned. And then later, now years later, apparently ex Twitch employees leaked out the reason why he was banned, which is because he was apparently messaging, allegedly he was messaging a minor. And then at some point, then this fool comes on Twitter. I believe he went on Twitter, so X, and then said that the reason why he got banned was because he was messaging. He said it. I mean, you know what? Let's we'll take a quick look. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you didn't say it, then Dr. Disrespect tweet. Let's see. When did he post this? I don't even know if this is it. This is June 25th. Oh, so this might be it. Let's cut that. As you know, there's no filter with me. I've always been upfront and real. Blah blah blah. First and foremost, I do apologize to my community, as to those close to me and those people that he knew in the studio. A lot of people have been left in the dark about what happened yesterday with Midnight Society, and we made a painful decision collectively to have me step down. Our team is full of incredible people, or incredible talented and good people that have high career ambitions and families, and I'd never want to jeopardize the culture we have carefully crafted. Everyone has been wanting to know why I was banned on Twitch, but for reasons outside my control, I was not allowed to say anything for the last several years. Now that 2 former Twitch employees have publicly disclosed the accusations, I can now tell you my side of the story regarding the ban. Where the Twitch whisper messages with an individual minor back in 2017, the answer is yes. So yeah, did he know that that she was a minor? Yeah. I believe so. I believe that's what it is. The answer is yes. See, he was saying, right? Because he's acknowledging that he messaged. He acknowledged a minor back in 2017. Were there real interactions behind these messages? The answer is absolutely not. These were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes lean too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. Nothing illegal happened. No pictures were shared. No crimes were committed. I never even met the individual. I went through blah, 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 blah. I want to know if I can find the leak. Yeah, I mean, well, no, ever. Don't know. Why? Like, why? What we need to see is Twitch or X, right? In an X Twitch employee, you don't ever like acknowledge anything like that. If it's if it's in that manner, X Twitch employee leak. Here we go, right? So see, and seeing it, of course, like it's gonna contradict, and of course it's behind a paywall. Former Twitch employee claims that knew he was sending sexual messages to a minor. Let's see. In a recent report, Rolling Stone, about Dr. Disrespect scandal, a former Twitch employee has claimed that Dr. Disrespect, knew that he was sending graphic sexual messages to the underage individual in question, and that the severity of the issue after it was investigated in 2020 led to the streamer getting permanently banned from the platform. For those unaware, center one of the biggest controversies. Let me see. Do they have? I just want to know the actual leak. I recall that Dr. Disrespect was made aware by the individual that they were underage during the conversation, after which he indicated that this was no problem and continued. Yeah. So, can't imagine when I become a lawyer and I have to defend this dummy. Well, so the thing is though, is like he didn't like. If I'm going to believe what's been done so far, I do not believe any crime, like an actual crime, has not been committed. As far as I can tell, it doesn't seem to be that a crime has actually been committed. I don't even know. Can you even send? Can you send sexual photos to a minor? I'm trying to think of like, have I ever heard of like something being done for something like that. If this takes to court, easy win for the prosecutor. Well, but like, what's the crime, right? There's no like he didn't. As far as I'm aware, there's no law that's actually broken. So this is just gonna be like the challenges and court stuff. This is gonna be all civil. This is just, like, unless he actually physically met up with the girl. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think. And as long as he didn't physically meet up with the girl or had her send him stuff back, then I don't know. I personally don't know like what are the laws he could have potentially had broke. Sure, I'm sure there's probably a bunch of terms of service he broke for Twitch, but those aren't law. So so yeah, so it won't be nothing like that. But I'm sure like this is all he's gonna take all this to court, and this is gonna be a civil court thing, right? Because you're talking about reputation, and then money, right? Because he was banned and that was a source of revenue. So yeah. Um, he and his wife and everything. I'm looking at it right now. That shit's still weird as fuck. Why did he do that? What the duck? Well, so that and you see the thing is that's the kind of behavior you just get with like edgy people. So like for all I know, like sending like well. So firstly, right, I'm not condoning none of it. Obviously, if she told you, she's underage, then even if you use those type of people that do that edgy stuff where it's like, oh, I don't know, like F you or you're just a cunt or whatever the stuff like edgy people be saying that can be like sexual sometimes. Yeah, that you still shouldn't. Yeah, you should immediately turn that off, and honestly you should have immediately just stopped messaging people. But I'm curious like what was her exact age, right? Because if I think in the manner in which it came out, are children allowed on Twitch? Jesus, come on. People who are 13 years old and older, but under the age of majority where they reside, but is 18, may only use Twitch under the supervision of a parent legal guardian who agrees to be bound by Twitch's term of service. Okay, so you can't be under the age of 13 to use Twitch at all, and then if you're under 18, it seems like, because under the age of majority, because that would be when everybody's considered a class of something, which would be an adult. So that tells me that if this was a minor, 9 times out of 10, the minor did not get a parent to be bound by the Twitch's terms of service. So then you also have an issue for Twitch as well, because then Twitch has minors that shouldn't be on their platform that they're not that you can argue they're not doing anything about. But and change the genre to politics if you can. I don't know how to. What on I did it on Twitch. Let me refresh this and see. Let me refresh. Yeah. Is it showing up as something else on your side? Because I see it as politics on my end, and then on my Kick it's the same thing. Oh shoot, YouTube. Let me YouTube real quick. Go live. Imagine all these is a pain. Okay. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go here. Not now. Manage. Okay, here we go. Go here. Edit. Hold on, I definitely do have to do it for YouTube before I forget. Yeah, there we go. And then let me save that. All right, cool. Now that that's done. I just needed to refresh. Oh, well, there you go. See? All right. Oh, yeah. I closed the YouTube thing because it do what I need to do. Okay. But yeah, so that's what that's like more or less what that entails. So, yeah, I'm sure he's going to take it to civil court. If indeed it was a former Twitch employee, that leaked all that stuff and whatnot, then he has a lot of ammunition then to argue, because then he could just sit, especially if what he's saying is true and he didn't actually send stuff, but then some Twitch employee came out of their mouth to say that, oh, it was, oh, Slasher, okay, I've heard that name before, came out of their mouth and just said like extra stuff, then it's kind of an easy win there. Although I don't know, like I think they'd be able to. I think you sue the individual. I don't know if you can sue the company after the employee left and then chose to divulge that information themselves. I mean, maybe you can make the case that maybe Twitch should have like an NDA or something that they should have bounded the employees to and stuff. So maybe you can make those kind of arguments. But outside of that, I mean, there's not but yeah, that's in a roll up though. Okay, that's my like rough summary of how that whole Doctor Disrespect thing going. I didn't really know till now. I saw Destiny post videos, but I didn't know who it was. Yeah, I think I caught like somebody like arguing him about it or something, but something like that I don't really like have too much interest into, because it's just stuff like that just gets like so weird. Like people just go crazy whenever it comes to like anything that has anything to do with anybody that's under the age of 18. Like people just go like so crazy over and can't just sit there and just sit back and just look at the stuff and just be like, okay, yeah, no, this was wrong or this wasn't, or it was always a lot. It's always a lot of moral projections. That's why when I did my Drake Kendrick video, I kept making it very clear. I'm not making no moral argument, because like moral projections is there's just no point. There's nothing to be argued with morality, because like you can't prove it either way. You can't say somebody's way is better than another person when there's so much different things that go to it between people's different walks of life, right? It's so boring to me, like moral arguments. Okay, well, I guess we're watching this. Give me. Is it really hard to do that? To do what? To adhere to morality? Well, the thing is just that like whose morality are you adhering yourself to? And then like who's to say that your particular set of moral beliefs are like any better or any worse than somebody else's? That's why I just don't like having those type of arguments, because it's just pointless, right? There's general stuff that you can sit there and you can like people majority come to the conclusion of like, oh yeah, thou shalt not kill thy mother, right? Not for any good reason anyway, right? Obviously if she's trying to kill you, then you probably need to protect yourself and put her in the ground, right? That's just what it. Some people might be like, you should never just kill her. You should just like break her arms or something and then try to get her help, because obviously she's mentally ill, and make all these other different jumps, right? But you wouldn't be wrong if you just say, well, I mean, she tried to kill me and I know she's my mom, but right, it's just stuff like that. Like it's just talking to a 17-year-old is crazy. Meanwhile, you got all these different laws that allow it. Meanwhile, you got all these different countries that have like age of consent things that's even younger. It's just I'm not for it. In the U.S., you go to certain states, you can marry your cousin, because marrying your cousin is a good moral thing to be able to do, right? I just don't want to do it. Don't even want to bother with it. Or another person is like, never put your hands on a woman. Yeah, like bullshit. Like you get attacked. You best believe she's catching the hands. Like that's just what it is. Like that whole don't put your hand on a woman thing, that's the same. But then the thing is that can you say like somebody's morally right or morally wrong for doing such a thing, and then in certain situations, like you shouldn't be putting your hands on people, period, for no reason, period, right? But that's not obviously that's typically the case in hand, right? Should you be able to do something if provoked, right? And then what kind of provoking are we talking about, right? It's just that's why it's just too much, right? Okay, I'm reeling it back in because I don't even want to think about it. I don't. We're gonna watch this video. Let's see what's sustained. Since you mentioned Assad, I love how the law treats fairly in terms of domestic violence. Yeah, I guess to an extent, right? Because then also at the end of the day, right, it's about the evidence. So if the evidence isn't there, and or if the evidence like makes it look like one way or the other, I mean, it is what it is. You just kind of hold. There's some states where like if they get a domestic violence call, they're not allowed to leave until they take somebody into custody. Even if both people didn't want to go, like they have to by law required to take somebody into jail. Somebody's getting the cuffs. So it's, to me, it's, they try to do their best, but I mean, obviously the law always tries to do it best, but there are things that can be argued that it is skewed to women's benefit than it is for men. Right? We know this. This is not really something of debate. We got plenty of examples online that we can always pull up and see. As a matter of fact, isn't there, you know what? Because I don't want to say it without actually being able to pull it up, right? Child assaulted by a woman, pregnant, required to pay child support. Is this enough key terms for me to get it? I thought there was an actual case of this. Rape victim ordered to pay her abuser child support. Let's look at this real quick.
Tonight, one of the most twisted stories we have investigated yet. A woman raped, becoming pregnant, and now in a fight over custody of the child with the father.
The bizarre chain of events unraveling in Tangipahoa Parish.
So this is obviously, so this is obviously the girl. So the girl was, so this is the girl being raped. I'm pretty sure survivor of sexual assault could go after rapists for Republican lawmakers and legislators require the perpetrator to pay double the amount of child support. Double the amount of child support is crazy. That's funny. Statutory rape victim forced to pay child support. Here we go. I was like, I know this story was somewhere. And this one was, this was a while ago though. While in high school, he had sex with a 20-year-old woman. As they see it now, she took advantage of the lonely kid. State law says a child younger than 15 cannot consent with an adult under any circumstances, making Olivis a rape victim. Olivis didn't press charges and say he didn't realize at the time that it was even something to consider. The two went their separate ways. Olivis, now 24, living in Phoenix, graduated from high school, went to college, became a medical assistant. Then 2 years ago, the state served him with papers demanding child support. That's how he found out that he then had a 6-year-old daughter. Yeah. Awesome, right? And then, of course, obviously, then he's going to have to go through the courts and pay child support. Do they at least get... Here we go. The most well-known case was of a Kansas boy who, at age 13, impregnated his 17-year-old babysitter. Under Kansas law, a child under the age of 15 is legally unable to consent to sex. The Supreme Court 1993 ruled that he was liable for child support. Yeah, it's bro, the stuff like that stuff is crazy. Like you see, like you sit there, you get taken advantage of, and then in those cases, right, illegal rape, excuse me, and you gonna be paying child support, right? Don't mind that you was 13 years old, right, and you was clearly taken advantage of. Whew, 13, boy, I tell you. And and the thing that what's crazy is that if you think about it though, right, the fact that males and females can get pregnant or get people pregnant at that young of an age tells me that the prehistoric back in the day times were probably kind of crazy. I don't even want to think about it. Or they were probably kind of crazy, and that's why like it wouldn't be surprising me like when I sit there and I hear that like, oh, this person has a wife who's like 12 years old or something like that, right, and it's under some like weird cultural or religious like stuff, and I'm just like, oh, okay, and then I just leave it be. Yeah, no, it's way worse, right? Because obviously, like, you don't know nothing. I don't even know if you even know what child support even is back then, or at that age, right? So you're just kind of hold. You're kind of hold for Kind of host for 18 there you go, 18 years, right? Because if you don't pay the child support and you're not able to pay anything, you go to jail, right? So now like it's not even like you can't even be a broke college student who focus fully on his academics and stuff, and then go to make money, right? You have to sit there. You have to go to college. If you're trying to go to college, you're gonna go to college. You're gonna work too at the same time, and that money's gonna go straight to, uh, you know, your your perpetrator. So excuse me, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's some really wild stuff out there. I think like the latest one was one where there was a teacher. I think it was a teacher in like New Mexico? Was it New Mexico? I think it was New Mexico. It was either New Mexico, Texas, where what's it called, she had sex with she obviously had sex with a child, and then I don't know if she got pregnant or not. Maybe, but let me see. I wish I should have saved those. See, this was a while ago. Was it New Mexico teacher, sex student? Was it New Mexico? I think it was New Mexico. Arrest. Is it this one? Special agents from New Mexico Department of Justice arrest Leonard Romeo at his residence. Former teacher. This sounds like a guy. It was a woman that had did it. Victims sexually touched by teachers say they lost justice. Was it this one? New Mexico. Female teacher. If I just say female teacher, sex student. Dozens of female teachers arrested for allegedly having. Dozens of female teachers have been arrested in the last year for allegedly having inappropriate relationships with their young students. 3 females charged. Man, this was just a few days ago. Came the third female teacher in the area to be accused of sexually abusing an underage male student. Jesus. Sure. What's your confession? Let me see. Oh, I'm trying to. My computer is acting like kind of crazy. But yeah, what's up? I had this one teacher in high school. She was hella bad, low key. She was kind of flirt with me. We met a few times after I graduated and turned 18, but just for coffee. I always imagine if the roles were reversed. Uh, yeah. So see, and here goes another thing too, right? So then, right, you turned 18. So then, legally you're good, but then from a morality perspective, people will sit there and then frown upon it, and this is exactly why I do not make these arguments. Hold on, what microphone is this that's near? He doesn't even use this. That's not the microphone I've been seeing him use lately. So does this actually the microphone he's actively using? That's crazy. But well, getting back to it, like they're like that's why I just like I don't get it. Candace kept harping about like the French president. The French president thing is a like perfect example, right? The French president, he was 15. He was probably an old what do you call it, like, because I have like a bunch of, I guess, cutouts of myself that I'm probably going to be using for a while until I get more better cutouts. But like the French president, he was 15 years old when he met his wife, right? She was a teacher. There was a 20-year age gap. And in French law, which by the way, again, he was 15, but you let Candace tell the story, right? He was 14 when that woman sat there and was doing like those weird things to her, right? As far as Candace wants to say, right? But he was 15, and yeah, there was a 20-year age gap. He was, she was his teacher, and he apparently, approached her and made it known to her that he was going to be with her, and whatnot, and the parents didn't like it. I'm trying to give you like the quick synopsis of it. The parents didn't like it. They told the teacher to stay away. She said she can't make any promises. My understanding is that they didn't really do much. I couldn't really find too much about it. It seems like maybe they were dating, maybe not. But once I know is that once obviously he turned 18, then it seemed like then the everything just went through. And then she was married at the time, so then I think after like she divorced, then that's when like they really got went together. But like I said, see, there you go, right? Perfect example. And then they're both now like happy, happily ever married or whatever. And so it's just my point, right? That just like trying to sit there and push moralities on people when other people just have different walks of life, different tastes or whatever, and it just I mean it just it is what it is. Not something I would do, but I'm not gonna sit there and push that on on anybody else. So can I just move you over here, please? There we go. This is, now that I think about it, this is gonna suck, right? If I get my new microphone, I'm gonna have to go like right here. I'm gonna have to move my Alexa to. Oh, can I? Cool. I'm gonna have to move my Alexa because the microphone's gonna have to be right here, and I'm gonna have to be like this and doing this stuff. Okay. Like I honestly see why people try not to have this moral arguments because it's really all about perspective. Like, yeah, and you can't tie it to anything. Like there's certain more arguments you can tie to something. Like you probably shouldn't kill somebody for no reason, and just like the basis of you probably shouldn't steal something for anybody, right? But then like you see, even that last one gets a little bit murky, right? Well, what if the person is poor? What if they don't have no food? Blah 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 blah. That's why I just don't.
Somebody said that Hassan got ultra pained.
Mo political commentator.
What is playing right now? That's this. Echoing like crazy in my ear. Okay, let's see. I'm really curious. You know what? You go over here today. You shouldn't be this big either.
All of you,
This
you're
is
all
the
cool
fucking
to me.
primo destination, okay? Yeah, go. He's gonna watch XUC. The primo political.
Let's see. Like honestly, because for the majority of Europeans, it is normal. It is normal to have shoes in the house, but in an Asian culture, oh God, you're better off dead. Yep, this is true, right? One example I have, right, is that people, for whatever reason, people will sit there, they'll go to work or they'll do whatever, and then they'll go to sleep. And then they'll wake up in the morning and then shower, right? To me, it's crazy, right? To me, every time I get off of work, like, I eat first, right? I'll eat because I like to eat my dinner as soon as possible, so that way I can do my hygiene thing all in one go. So brush teeth, shower. Like I do not, and I really hate when other people. I have a peeve on this one that when I see other people do it. Like I do not put on no clean clothes if I do not shower. If I came to work, I do not change into anything without showering first. I go straight, kitchen for food, straight to showering. I do not detour to anything else. If I have to go back outside, I will prefer to do it in the same work clothes I'm in, because once I put on those clean clothes, I want to stay clean and I want to stay in the house. So that's just like that's just like a me thing, for example, right? But I don't sit there and I like blame or go crazy like if somebody sits there and does it. I mean, that's just what they do. That's just what they do. It is what it is. It really is, because what if we were to convince a pedo why it is wrong to date people that are 20 years younger than you? How do you think that will turn out? Yeah, I know. IW hygiene for sure. I'm telling you, man, you gotta be clean. I don't understand how you come out from the outside world and then you put on clothes. You put on pajamas or whatever it is, shorts or whatever it is, and then you go shower, and then you probably put those same pajamas or whatever back on, right? You can't do it. I'm trying to think. That question. If we were to convince a pedo, right? I'm gonna call it peddler. If we was to convince a peddler why it is wrong to date people that are 20 years younger. It could be a flag. That, I mean, the hygiene thing could be a flag, but again, right? You know, different people, different perceptions. So you'll have to see. 20 years younger than you. How do you think that will turn out? Yeah, I call them peddlers. Like those are peddlers to me. I'm not a. I don't know why I feel so squeamish over the actual word. That's why I just use the word peddler. Do you not shake hands? Yeah, and then after I shake the hands, like I try to get some hand sanitizer stuff, because I've sat there, like, have you ever gone to a public restroom and you see somebody go urinate and then leave straight out the bathroom without washing their hands, right? That's why I try to use my pinky when opening doors. Whenever it's possible for me to get on some hand sanitizer, that's like I'm always on it. Or I'll use paper towels. Right after you wash your hands and you use the paper towels to dry, you're supposed to use that same paper towel to grab the handle, right, and then do it. But then just remember, right, you're still shut out of luck, because if there's any doors after that, then you're just not going to avoid the germs. I mean, you're not. You can do your best. That's why I'm not like, I don't get OD about it. Sure, go ahead, ask your question. But that's why I don't get so OD over it. All right, I have got to get my life together. Oh yeah, so we're trying to produce more resources. This is what we want. We want to produce. Oh, this pause button is the pause. Oh, space bar is the pause. Okay, yeah, let's go and play this and let's go.
Commentator.
Hey, I like the one who shall not be named too. You know, I like everybody. Okay, I think
Who shall not be named? Are you talking about Destiny? Oh God.
I like how he has to force the laugh as he says my name. He's so performative. Holy shit.
Can you two make up for me? I feel like if anyone could bring you two back together,
No.
I would love to be the bridge between
No
you.
way.
Like, I've known both of you for so long. I care about.
Oh, he's
both
doing a
of
call-in
you.
show? Is that what he's
I feel like
doing?
there was a beautiful friendship there, and although it.
Well, OJ's dead now, so like kind of more or less don't have to worry about it. My understanding is he did do it. Right? Isn't that what it is? Hold on. Can I? How do you upgrade these? Hold on. Oh yes, this one, isn't it? Core foundation, yes. All right, there we go. Now all the materials are coming in, and we're getting. Yeah, now we can start getting a lot more material. How much did that shit cost me? Oh, 3,000. 3,000 of copper, lead, and silicon. That's why I have so little now. Because that was close to like my cap. But OJ most certainly did it. We know OJ did it. And I guess that's what you can argue, that why the parts where the justice system just it is what it is, I suppose. Right? You get a good enough lawyer and the circumstances can line up, right? Hey, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. That's just what it is. And then he didn't what, right? Then he wrote a book right after, if he did do it. So crazy stuff. Do I want to? I think I do want to. Is that my only titanium source, right? No, I have another titanium source over here. But I know I'm going to need more. So let's see what. Okay, let's go back to the
It's
side.
been mended along, destroyed along the way. I feel like it could be mended.
Slasher,
slowly.
you've been in this industry. You've been in this industry for quite some time.
Yes, I have had people that I have hated for 10 years,
Okay.
and now we are best friends.
Okay, hold on.
If
You've been in
I
this
could
industry
do
for
it, you
quite
could
some
do it.
time.
If I could do it, you could do it.
I'm gonna refer back to the Shroud tweet. Okay, I'm gonna refer back to the Shroud tweet, or the Shroud clip that we just watched. I'm gonna run it back again, and just to help you assess the situation a little bit better. Here, I'll share the screen with you again so you can hear him again. Cause here, let's run it back a little bit.
Why is he acting like the whole world doesn't know why I was banned? Like, what is he implying? Like, if anybody here fucks children, it's probably gonna be the guy with a 15-year-old fan base. Like, what? Like, what a weird implication. Okay.
You tried to hit up Doc at all? No.
Instead of Doc, input Destiny in there.
I haven't talked to him since he got banned because I am a logical person. The
Yes.
second Doc got banned on Twitch, my logic kicked in, and I said, "Yep, you don't just get banned randomly." And I didn't say a word.
Now, here's
Imagine Dragons Loom World Tour.
Wait, I'm confused. I thought Destiny got banned because of like trans stuff, isn't it? Was it? Is that not what my understanding is? Was he banned for something like an actual allegation of something else? Is that right? Or what the hell did I think of? Jesus Christ! I forgot Firefox is. Yeah, right. I'm right. It was for trans stuff, right? Why does this sounding like he was banned? Like even Destiny statement. Why does this sound like this is like banned for something completely different from that? Am I crazy?
you know, here let's run it back a little bit.
Try to be.
Why is he acting like the whole world doesn't know why I was banned? Like, what is he implying? Like, if anybody here fucks children, it's probably gonna be the guy with a 15-year-old fan base. Like, what? Like, what? What a weird implication. Okay.
All right, what are you clipping me here? Watch this.
You want to be at the forefront of technology and make your best music and set yourself up for success as a producer.
Okay, this is 12 minutes. That's not too bad. Okay. Copy this. Close that. Maybe. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna just play the music we did last time. Wait, you go back. How did I get here? Go back. You come here. You do this. He destroyed all these Red Pill guys. Oh, is this the? I think I seen this one. Was this the Twitch one? The Twitch little thing that had and didn't it have Fuentes and it had it had Andrew Tate. Wasn't Sneeko in there and I think even Fresh. I think even Fresh was in there too, right? Yeah.
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. See, right? Let me see. Sneeko. Yup. Myron. Yup. Nick Fuentes. Yeah, I had seen this one. Yeah, so I actually already did see this one. Yeah, like I think like what? Like I think like he really. He told Tate that, you know, he obviously that Tate doesn't understand nothing about like how the media works, because this is what I'm talking about, right? Like the conspiracies. Like I got a guy that I really like on my kick side there. He's big conspiracy guy. But you know, I'll sit there and look at all the stuff he shows me, and it's just like at the end of the day, you know, you got to be able to prove these things, and if you look at these conspiracy things step by step, like it's just extraordinary what you're saying has to be in place for these allegations to actually be real. When you're sitting there, you're talking about some type of ginormous entity that's controlling every single Robin he's cool peoples, every single entity. Every single news entity across a bunch of different countries and cultures and stuff that can sit there and manipulate the, you know, whatever is, I don't even know what's the word I'm even looking for, but just to manipulate the story or whatever to push like a really specific agenda across the board. Like, how is it then that like CNN sat there and like trashed Biden the way he did when the debate happened, right? Like this just like I just don't believe it. It's just impossible. It's just impossible. Like there's no way the Shattery organization thing just does not exist.
Said the exact same thing, that he had basically full editorial.
Didn't Tucker get fired for having an opinion that went outside of?
And then the lies that they said they do, like, because when he sat there, and I remember hearing that too. When he sat there, he said that didn't Tucker get fired for having an opinion? No, that's not at all what happened. Tucker got fired because of what he had in the text messages that just contradict what Fox News was sitting there and parroting with the fake oh God, what is it? The votes, the voter machine shit, where he didn't even believe it, but he was sitting there still talking. He's still sitting there, and that's why I don't even like Tucker Carlson either, right? And that actually, bro, I don't understand like why people still sit there and they listen to them, while they listen to Alex Jones. Like these people, like if you could be a fly on the wall, you would realize that these people actually really know what they're saying is an outright lie. For why they sit there and they spread these lies, I don't know, right? Tucker Carlson did not believe the Kraken lady. He didn't believe all that ish with the fake voter machine thing, right? And then like what happened, right? The lawsuit, the discovery, all that came out and came to light. And guess what? And Fox News especially didn't like it because at that point they had to settle, right? You don't settle in court unless you know unless you either don't want to deal with the publicity, or you are for sure know you're gonna lose, right? And Fox News knew they were going to lose. They knew they were going to lose because what they were saying, what they've been spreading for however long they've been spreading, was just absolute lies. Period. It was just absolute lies. He lied on every. He lies on every. Like once they started, and the thing is like I try to watch Tucker Carlson from time to time. I used to, but once he started purposely lying about January 6th, when he was sitting there and he was showing clips of people, like, people just walking through and whatnot, when we have all of the other footage that shows that it wasn't no just some casual tour or nothing like that. I was just like, bro, this is crazy. I can't believe nothing you're going to tell me from this point forward at all, period. Like, I can't even expect, like, no, it was just bad. It was just bad. Just like the lying. And then once you just get caught, and then the thing is I don't even know why people even watch Fox News like that, period. Like, they've been taken to court multiple times, and they've had to say in court that especially for the people that it pertains to, that they are not a news anchor or a news agency or whatever, right? It's an opinion. It's an opinion or narrate, whatever the word is. So you hate people like that spreading fake news. I hate people that just straight up lie. Like it's one thing. It's one thing to express an opinion, right? But when you express an opinion as fact, and you express an opinion as fact that's verifiably false, right? Then that's a massive problem, because then you got these other people that sit there that'll just hold on to what you're saying and believe everything you're giving them is gospel, and that's just and then you get all of this. Then you get this right here, where you just have all these like colorful people, because before the internet before the internet allowed this, right, these people would have never met each other. And so then the damage, or like the collective power that comes from numbers, would be diminished, and you wouldn't have to deal with a lot of this. You wouldn't see a lot of this. But because the internet allows people of like minds to come together, right, then you get this thing here where you get people to just sit there and start spreading all kinds of just straight up just bullshit. It's just what it is, right? And then you got people that don't know any better, right, that wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise, that would have had the time to actually been educated, actually learn what to look out for, that get caught up listening or seeing these lies and stuff, and then they fall into that trap, and then it becomes a vicious cycle, and then then it is what it is. So my gosh, this has made me thirsty, but I have nothing to drink. I ordered groceries in Walmart, but I order it for the 1st, so I mean technically tomorrow. So I don't have my groceries for tomorrow because I have absolutely almost nothing in the house but water, because I was trying to clear up my supplier. But yeah, I already saw this one. This one is yeah, this one is just, oh god, I'm getting a brain aneurysm just thinking of the lies that these people just peddle all the time. Oh yeah, we can close all this other stuff. Can I close these other tabs? Close other tabs. Here we go.
Tried to hit up Doc at all? No.
Instead of Doc, input Destiny in there.
I haven't talked to him since he got banned, because I am a logical person.
Yeah.
The second Doc got banned on Twitch, my logic kicked in, and I said, "Yep, you don't just get banned randomly." And I didn't say a word.
Now, here's the point: is obviously with Destiny, it wasn't like the same reasons as to why Doc got banned. That's not what I'm saying at all. Okay. But imagine if I were to use an analogy, imagine if Dr. Disrespect was like openly trying to hit on minors. That's not what Destiny got banned for. Okay? That's not what Destiny got banned for. But what he got banned for, basically, and we don't know the details. You don't know the details. I don't know the details. But he has been openly doubling down on all of those activities and being a relentlessly toxic person to pretty much anyone he chooses to put in his fucking crosshairs.
Notice that this is the guy who, while he was doing a Wired appearance, plugged at least, I think, 4 people that had made thinly veiled or overt threats of murder or physical violence towards me when he was on that Wired show. Like, we literally watched him plug every single one that had just recently made threats towards me, or Denim's maybe towards Isaac Gold. Tell me how to take it. But like he plugged like 3 of the people that had just recently done it. But okay.
For the past, 4, 5, 6 years. So, there's no repairing that bridge. And also on top of that, he is like an unimaginable writer of Israel.
Oh yeah, and then Hassan literally posting a picture of how to do like a homemade gun, implying that somebody should assassinate sitting U.S. senator. Yeah, good one.
Yep, I've seen.
That's
I have
crazy.
seen. Look, I always believe anything's possible, Hassan. I'm all about bringing people back together. I have a guy named Richard Lewis, okay, from my community.
No, I know. I know. I remember.
Okay, we had beefed and we had hated each other, and we've known each other for almost 20 years. We beefed for maybe a full decade, okay? And he came to New York as of recently. We hung out a bunch here. We're cool. We really like each other. If I could fix that and mend that, then anything truly.
I mean, I don't think,
maybe not now. Maybe not now.
Maybe Richard Lewis's fan base is not, I don't know, relentlessly cyber stalking you.
Cyber stalk? Like, bro, your fans are literally offering to pay people money to throw shit at me. Like, what? Your fan base is so unhinged. What the f is my fan base even involved in? What is the worst thing that like a Destiny fan has done? Like, they say this like it's just a given. Like, oh yeah, remember all like the assassins, the hitmen, the doxers? Like, what the? Like, you're just asking because you get hate threads on my subreddit. Jesus Christ.
And harassed you in perpetuity by utilizing, or Richard Lewis aligning with like open Nazis, for example, like Sam Hyde, who also is a pedophile Nazi.
Meanwhile, the Houthi adventurer Hassan, who literally has that Houthi dude photoshopping him into pictures and then tweeting it out because Hassan did a suckfest, a 2-hour suckfest on his stream with him.
Specifically because he hates me and apparently wants to kill me as a joke. Or
Have you thought about maybe how
Nick
about
Fuentes? Like, no, dude, there's no repairing that mend because it is
you amplify Groypers more than I do because they attack me. Like, half your fucking attacks on me come from Groyper accounts on Twitter.
A bridge that was burned on petty reasons, and the subsequent 5 years after that fact have proven that it was an irreparable difference in opinion, no matter how much this cultish fan base feels as though this person is a true progressive.
Can't argue with any of that.
Yeah, well, so now you understand then.
You're not wrong. I've always understood, okay? You know how many times I've yelled at Steven for being a fucking asshole and cruel and a piece of shit? Many times.
How many times have you yelled at me? How many times have you yelled at me for similar things?
Much less.
Much less? Never.
Not even, probably, yeah.
Oh, God, the sucking is so cringe. Oh, my God.
Exactly. All right, that one's a bust. So that's just some a Hassan fan, I guess, which sounds a lot like dick writing. That's what that kind of just more or less sounded like. Bro, why is this not? Okay, there we go. Yeah. So he's just dick writing, and it's just there's just no substance out of that conversation between Hassan and that guy. It's just doesn't fuck with Destiny. Okay, but we are going to let's try to find an actual real Destiny thing that I have not seen. Josh Bombshell. Start with his main channel, right?
The trans athlete is going to do a lot to like foster a lot of really bad will against like.
Stop it. This is 2 years ago. 2022. Okay, let's see what we got here. She actually. Sneagle gets Superman punched. Why Jordan Peterson is actually right about what is a woman. Terry Hart's insane. I know ideas. White people are racist. Please just answer. Let me see here. Let me see. Destiny stopping triggers leftist. That's reliable. Okay. You want me? I think you know. We'll probably. Why don't we watch that clip you gave? I think that's probably what we're just gonna end up doing. All these goddamn. And we're just gonna watch it. We're just what?
Is using AI to help you produce.
Okay.
he had basically full editorial.
Didn't Tucker get fired for having an opinion that went outside of the narrative of Fox News? Isn't that why
No,
he's
Tucker
there?
got the Dominion voting machines being rigged.
Well, I don't know if that's a lie at all.
You don't know anything. You don't read the media. That's why you're out here saying things like they get marching orders from everybody. You don't know how any of these media companies are structured. You don't know where the teams get their information from. People that work in media are the most like social media hungry people in the universe. You think that all these people in all these networks across all these countries are getting fed the same marching?
Change the headlines very quickly, Destiny.
After the election, they came out and said, yeah,
Literacy. A really great example that works against your Israel stuff, by the way.
Is it just start off just like that? Okay, I guess it does.
What's this? That's not what I heard. Tell me, please educate me.
The Fox News, the Dominion lawsuit. There were texts that were leaked from him where he admitted he was lying on air about claims that Sidney Powell made to him. He was tired of lying to his audience about things about the Dominion voting machines being rigged.
Well, I don't know if that's a lie at all.
You don't know anything. You don't read the media. That's why you're out here saying things like they get marching orders from everybody. You don't know how any of these media companies are structured. You don't know where the teams get their information from. People that work in media are the most like social media hungry people in the universe. You think that all these people in all these networks across all these countries are getting fed the same marching orders and nobody's leaked anything, nobody's complained about anything, nobody's said anything? And why do we think that mainstream media is any more insulated from these problems than alternative media is? You guys will make fun of the marching orders from mainstream media, but I bet every single alternative media guy in here is anti-vax, thinks COVID came from a bioweapons lab, thinks that Russia has a right to invade Ukraine, thinks that all the charges against Donald Trump are made up, thinks that we shouldn't be supporting Israel. Like, you guys have literally copy-pasted the same opinions between every single one of you, and you guys are talking like an army of NPCs about how the mainstream media gives you like fabricated opinions. Like, it doesn't even make sense.
Yes, we do all think the truth. That is.
Oh, crazy how truth can be a perspective there, huh? But when you all think the same thing, it's not a conspiracy, but when the mainstream media does, it is a conspiracy. Crazy how that works.
I just said that different state-sponsored broadcasters would have conflicting points of view.
But they don't. Do you watch any media? Have you followed any
Of
media?
course,
They
if you
don't
watch,
typically
if
have
you watch a
conflicting
Russian,
opinions.
if
When
you
you're
watch
reporting on
an
international media,
RT
the stories are more or less the same.
And a BBC segment, they often directly conflict.
No, very rarely. On the facts, no. Maybe if you're watching a pundit or you're reading op-eds, they will. But if you have any amount of media literacy, a really great example that works against your Israel stuff, by the way, was the reporting of that Al-Awsi hospital bombing, where everybody was saying that Israel bombed that parking lot. Every single mainstream media outlet in the world ran with that story for 2 days. I mean, how did that work if Israel controls the media? Or how does that work if they all give conflicting accounts of reports? It's because they don't. It's because everybody relies on, like, people that are reporting on the ground. It goes through their media teams. They publish what they think is right. Sometimes people up. But there doesn't have to be a top-down conspiracy to explain why.
Should change the headlines very quickly, Destiny.
Yeah, after more information came out. Yes, sir. That's how it works.
When fake news came out.
So naive. There have been so many lies, specifically about wars. It's insane that you would even bring that up. Before the 2020 election, there was a big story about how Russians were putting a bounty on the head of American soldiers in Iraq. You remember this? And they said Trump is allying with Russia, who's killing our soldiers. Then a year after, and by the way, that's after the election, they came out and said, yeah, that wasn't true. They came out and said, see, but we source our intelligence on the ground. Some of it has a high degree of confidence, and some of it has a low degree. And this one had no degree of confidence. But it took them a year to correct it after it had already served its purpose. Same thing with the Hunter Biden laptop. They totally put the lid on that one because they said, we were told it's Russian disinformation. Turned out to be authentic after the election. Just like the 40 beheaded babies. 40 beheaded...
Jesus Christ. Is that Nick? Who is that actually talking?
Babies, 40 babies, and their heads are off. I can't believe it. And then they found out in December, after Israel had already invaded, after they blockaded Gaza, after everything, they said, oh yeah, that was all fabricated.
That sounds like
Same
Nick.
thing with Ukraine.
Okay, so that's definitely Nick. Because all that's so wrong. I remember the whole thing about the bounty on the U.S. soldiers and stuff. But like, I'm trying to think. So his problem is just that they corrected themselves right after to just sit there and say that, oh yeah, like it doesn't turn out to be true. How do you think they actually sit there and they verify it in a country, in a hostile country, right? They don't have that luxury to sit there and like actually like run through these sources in Afghanistan or Iraq. So like a year later, like sitting there and being like, oh okay, yeah, like the source actually turns out probably wasn't the case, right? That's I don't know how that's not. I really don't know how that's not believable. I for the life of me, I couldn't see how that's not how something like that wouldn't be believable. They just like they have these like weird preconceived notions about just like how rapidly something should be done when they haven't done anything similar to the work themselves. It's just crazy. It really is just crazy. And then that thing with the oh god, but then the laptop, right? Didn't the guy that was like pushing the information about the laptop, didn't he just get indicted? Isn't that the case? Or is that like is that just separate? Isn't that just separate? I'm trying to remember this guy, right? Russian informant indicted. Yeah, Smirnov. Yeah, here we go, right here, right? So told investigators he got Hunter Biden dirt from Russian intelligence officials. Right. Former FBI informant charged with lying about the Biden's dealings in Ukraine told investigators after his arrest that Russian intelligence officials were involved in passing information to him about Hunter Biden. So if they're in an area, right? If they're in an area that's pushing a lot of that's getting a lot of this like fake information from Russia, Jesus So a lot of this fake information. Oh yeah, I don't need this no more. So let me move this out the way. A lot of this fake information from Russia. Like the Justice Department sitting there and assuming, especially since it was really close to the election, which they already knew Russia was up to trying to like do whatever they can to sit there and interfere with the election, right? The story of Hunter Biden's laptop being fake would 100% make sense, right? And then because the story itself was just a bit crazy, that he just so happens to have left a laptop that just so happens to have that saved emails or whatever information on all these business dealings that would have implicated Biden doing something like whatever illegal shady stuff. Like to me, like that's just crazy that the person that he gave the laptop to in the little like laptop shop, whatever it is, sat there, went, decided to go through it, which is not something that most people you would hope most like repair shops aren't doing. They're just sitting there repairing your ish and then giving it back to you, right? So he went to the one that just so happens to sit there that likes to snoop, and then understood what he was finding, and then actually like handed it off. Like all of that sounds like really crazy. So like I would have most certainly took it with a grain of salt. And then like around the election season, yeah, like that makes sense. And then afterwards, later, like as far as the information on it being legitimate, and all it was. And the thing is that notice the choice of words, right? They're saying that the Hunter Biden, they're saying the Hunter Biden laptop, the Biden laptop, right? But they're not actually attesting to what exactly that laptop was alleged to have had, right? They were sitting there and saying that laptop had proof that Joe Biden was doing all these, different things, right? That's what I remember that story being, because that's the reason why it came out close to the election, because it was to be tied directly to Joe Biden, which then what came out now, right? Just recently, right? Only thing on that laptop was just like naked pictures of him and proof that he did the drugs, right? And then I think there might have been like some stuff with the Burisma, but nothing at all that sat there and it was a direct linkage or any form of implication to the actual president. So in reality, I mean, you could probably even say that even the Biden laptop story is still technically fake, right? Because it was being, I wish I knew how to just pull up like the original, what was being originally pushed. New rules? There's the new rules. A set of new rules was introduced for the historic show. Oh no, this is talking about that. Okay. I was gonna say, hold on, did he just already put like rules for the other place? Let me think. What is the what would I say? Hunter Biden laptop story Twitter. Former Twitter execs told the Republican House Committee on Wednesday that they made a mistake by blocking tweets about a laptop. Let me see here. I wish I could find the original tweets. But adamantly denied Republicans' assertion they were pressured by Democrats and law enforcement to suppress the story. The decisions aren't straightforward, and hindsight is 2020. Twitter's former head of trust and safety testified to Congress. It is obvious what the right response is to a suspected but not confirmed cyber attack by another government in a presidential election. Let's see. He added Twitter erred in this case because he wanted to avoid repeating the mistakes of 2016. Yeah, because there was a whole lot of stuff going on in 2016. Initially blocked the Twitter from New York Post, right? Why tech giants limited the spread of New York Biden. Yeah, the New York Times Biden tweet here. When Facebook and Twitter moved quickly this week to limit the spread of an unverified political story. Can I get to this? Just look at the original. Trump seizes on dubious Biden. Oh, and crazy how like it's once again in Ukraine, right? Where we just found out that the Russians were sitting there feeding the other guy the fake information. How love. Looking to undermine rival Joe Biden 20 days before the election. President Donald Trump's campaign has seized on a tabloid story offering bizarre twists to a familiar line attack. Biden's relationship with Ukraine, but the story in the New York Post raises more questions than answers, including about the authenticity of an email at the center of the story. The origins of the story also trace back to Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani, who has repeatedly pushed unfounded claims about Biden and his son, Hunter Biden. Even if the emails in the Post are legitimate, they don't validate Trump and Giuliani's claim that Biden's actions were influenced by his son's business dealing in Ukraine. This is the Hunter Biden laptop story. That it contained information directly to Joe Biden. That is false. That still is false. The laptop exists. They're sitting there trying to argue about about people saying that the laptop was fake. No, okay, sure, the laptop was real, but the story you were saying about its relevance is fake. That's what the issue is here. That is what the issue is. And it sucks for him, man, because like he wouldn't have like now what? Now he's dealing with that gun charge thing. That just sucks. What I hope happens, I really do hope he does this, is that if Biden loses, before he leaves that office, he needs to pardon his son. Just pardon your son, and then peace out. That's what I hope that's what he does, right? Well, I really hope that he wins, of course, right? But if he was to lose, at least pardon your son, so that way you just get that, just get that like out of there, because that's just crazy. All right, let's go back here. But right, I just want to make sure that we're full clear understanding about what the Hunter Biden. Why do I keep like jacking up this man's name? Hunter Biden's laptop story actually was. It wasn't about the laptop, like its existence just cause. It was because of its existence and what they were trying to say that it had. Is false, right? Nothing in it showed that Joe Biden had any of these like shady dealings in Ukraine. Period. That's just what it is.
I remember when we debated, they said Russia blew up a nuclear reactor because they're trying to do another Chernobyl. Turned out that was bullshit. So those are just like off the top of my head. 5 examples about 3 different conflicts where, they report it. It serves its purpose, and then they revise it a year later after they got what they wanted. And you, because you believe their alibi, because you don't understand the distinction between power and powerless, between government and people, you say, no, I think they got more information. They found out that the propaganda that they created for their efficient purpose, they found out that was a lie, because, these are just really earnest people like you and I trying to get it right, as opposed to very interested parties in government, finance, wherever you find it. So those are just a few examples off the top of my head. They learned more information, just like in Iraq, right? They learned there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
It's possible because it happened on the other side too. How many people were saying, there's no way that Russia's going to invade Ukraine? That's bullshit. The U.S. intelligence must be lying because Nick said that they lie about the intel all the time. Well, guess what? That happened. Oh, well, there are no fighters in Al-Shifa hospital. That can't possibly be the case. Oh, whoops, we found CCTV footage that shows otherwise. Oh, no, hydroxychloroquine is a way better drug than remdesivir. Like, this is going to be the mechanism going to save all of us. Oh, looks like none of that was true. Oh, people get things wrong. Some people lie. Like, you have to be intelligent enough to call out fault. That wasn't even a syllogism. No, that wasn't even a syllogism. Listen, people get things wrong sometimes. You have to be more intelligent. You got to be more sophisticated when you go through media. You have to understand sometimes people f up and they get shit wrong. Sometimes people do lie. But why the f would you trust people in alternative media who are like teams of like 1 to 4 highly ideologically driven people versus entire media conglomerates that are being fact checked or have like dozens or sometimes hundreds of workers in some of these offices? Like the ability for you to lie about something is going to be way higher.
How much do you know about the CIA's history of influencing media?
What an amazing question. I don't know. How much do you know about?
I often don't hear people like you and Ed and Brian digging into the history of the national intelligence state directly influencing media.
Because history is different. Like if you want to talk about U.S. foreign policy between like the 40s and before the the fall of the Soviet Union, that's going to be a different type of foreign policy, a different approach than our foreign policy over the past like 34 years. Also, the ability to sneak or hide different things is going to be different when everybody is carrying around a video camera and a recorder. Like the ability to do things covertly is a lot easier back in the day when people were typewriting to each other. Or
I have to go.
Yeah, do your thing, Andrew.
Sorry, brother. I have to go, so I just want to ask a really quick question. Destiny, I want to understand your worldview, because you and I have a different worldview, it seems, especially on girlfriends, etc. But we won't go down that path. Do you think it would be prudent and professional for a country to allow its state broadcaster, which speaks to its populace, to report whatever it wanted and whatever it discovered without any kind of moderation?
And then the thing is, and then you see like the slick little jab. Oh, since we have worldviews like with girlfriends and stuff, like you see, like that. I especially hate. Like it's just because it's unnecessary, and it does nothing but serves as a distraction with no type of substance or value in any way, shape, or form. Like it's just
or input, even if it was directly adverse to the goals and aims of the national security of said country or the military-industrial complex of that country? Do you think they would allow the state broadcaster to just report whatever it wanted fairly without anyone telling them what to say or any narratives to hold, even if it's directly counter to the interests of very powerful entities within that nation? Do you believe that we operate in a world that fair?
Yes,
Do you think that would be prudent and professional?
because confidence is a valuable thing. And if your country doesn't trust you, it doesn't trust the media, if it doesn't trust the leaders, and if you've got ways to hold them accountable, like via voting, then yeah, if you f around with your population and people find out, you're going to be held accountable for it. Arguably, that's why Trump won his election. You know, you can say that like, oh well, the media lies to everybody and everybody lies to everybody. That might be true, fine. Then why the f should we believe anything any of you guys say, right? At that point, you're in an epistemic, nihilistic black hole of nothingness where you can't believe anybody.
Listen, I have a question. I'm curious.
Okay, go, Andrew.
I'm curious. Do you believe that in China, the state broadcaster can just broadcast whatever it wants and whatever it discovers, or do you believe it has to work within an official narrative from the government?
In China, I think they probably have to work with official narratives from the government. This media probably works close to the state.
And what about in Russia?
Yes. For publications like RT, yes.
Saudi?
I don't know as much about Saudi media, but that would be my assumption. It's a total monarchy, yeah.
But in the West, not at all, 0%, right?
Well, it depends on the country you're talking about. Like the BBC gets state funding. I don't think they get state direction. PBS gets state funding. I don't think they get state direction. I think in general in the West, I don't think the media tends to operate at the behest of the state. Whereas like in monarchies or dictatorships, you tend to operate more with what the state is telling you to do, yes.
Well, we could ask why you get state funding without state direction. That's one question. But so
because of legislation from Congress that authorizes state funding? I mean, it's not really a huge conspiracy.
Of course, yeah, they just give money for nothing. Yes, fine.
I'm sorry, do you think the most wealthy broadcasters work for PBS and NPR?
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
I know you don't.
I want to try and get to the end of the point, especially because I'm driving. So do you think that would allow a country to be competitive, considering that you need to have narrative control over your populace, and that we now know, and everyone in the West accepts, that China has narrative control over its populace via the state broadcaster, as does Russia, as does Saudi Arabia, as do all these other countries, and that having a news broadcasting apparatus which told the truth, even if it's against national security interests, would not allow you to be competitive as a nation state? Do you think that we're going to allow that to happen just because we care about truth so much?
No, because the West doesn't run the world because they dominate the narrative. The West runs the world because they dominate it militarily and economically. People don't like the United States because we've got the most bought and paid for media. They like the United States because we have the strongest navy that guarantees the most free passage through water. Because when the Houthis start firing missiles at people, it's U.S. destroyers that show up and save the waterways. They like the United States because we are a massive trading partner. We have the highest GDP in the world at this point, and we buy and sell goods like crazy. That's why people like us, not because we poison our media, but because we actually put out good results. You can't control the media. You can't media frame the way out of like horrible participation in a world economy. You just have to like actually be able to put up the numbers.
No, I don't think you understood the point I'm asking, because America as a country is in competition with other nation states, right?
No, but we don't compete on who can control the narrative. That's shit you do on Twitter and YouTube. We compete on who has the highest number of exports. We compete on who can facilitate like the largest like multilateral trade deals. We compete on who can guarantee safe passage through waterways. And people start blowing each other up, whose military is going to show up to make sure that your ships are safe. Those are the things that we compete on.
Cool, understand. So you think that America has no vested interest in controlling the narratives that its own population believes in, although the CIA spends basically unlimited money ensuring that vested interests are installed in every other nation state around the world.
If you
They
think
don't care about their own at all.
Yeah.
They don't care about what Americans think at all. They just care about all the other countries think.
If you think the CIA spends unlimited money, it's because you don't know what unlimited money looks like, and you have no idea what the scale is between like CIA spending and spending of companies like Facebook or Apple or Microsoft or Amazon. Like if you guys at least were to come on and say things like, I think that all of our foreign policy is being ran by the people that control like Apple and Facebook, that would at least make sense. But by companies that are worth, like tens of billions or like $100 billion, no, absolutely not. And also, no, the reputational hit you would take in a democracy when you elect your leaders and people catch you lying about stuff or fabricating stories or controlling the media. No, I don't think you.
Lying. Oh, we never called them lying.
Is this supposed to be a death sentence?
Nobody ever said. Hold on. Nobody ever said they never. Nobody ever said. Nobody
influence other populations, but they have no interest at all in influencing the minds of their own populace. No, they just care about trying to influence everybody else's with their democracy and all the garbage they're doing when they're pushing it. And you're saying they don't control the narrative, which is also another rabbit hole we need to go down.
I mean, technically, your story isn't even contradictory. Even if I let you have that, because technically Americans don't really give a what happens in other countries as much as their own. So you could get away with influencing other countries more than your own. Yeah, of course. But the reality is that like if you get caught doing these lies, you pay huge repercussions for it. Like a lot of the country's politics.
For COVID.
What did they
pay for COVID? What did they pay for the Vietnam War? What did they pay for the weapons?
The media coverage for the Vietnam War was harmful to U.S. institutions. That's one of the reasons why we left Vietnam. If we controlled the media, we would have stayed in Vietnam until we saw it through. Media pressure is one of the reasons we left. Look at how unpopular the Iraq War became. You don't think Obama wanted to take a more active role in the Middle East? He couldn't because the American public hates everything in the Middle East after the Iraq War. What are you talking about? Yeah, American public heavily influences our capability of operating in different theaters of war. After Iraq and Afghanistan, we have no appetite for it.
Okay. Is this supposed to be about being unbanned, or is this about the #1 news media truster to defend the State Department's agenda?
Hurricane. Okay. That's actually since I already like watched that clip before, that's probably why I didn't really react too much to it. I mean, because it's just what are you really talking about? Like when one side is just so heavily just entrenched into just lies and just believing their own way of